The morning sun burned over downtown Atlanta, bouncing off the mirrored glass of Liberty National Bank. Inside, the air hummed with the low murmur of customers and the soft clicks of keyboards. People shuffled in line, scrolling on their phones, whispering impatiently. It was an ordinary morning until the front doors slid open and she appeared. Her coat was worn, frayed at the edges. The sleeves were dark with stains, her sneakers barely holding together, and the scarf draped around her shoulders had faded to a dull gray. Her hair, streaked with white, hung loosely. Everything about her screamed struggle, despair, and survival. And yet, her eyes, clear, calm, and piercing, they scanned the room like a quiet storm, demanding attention without a word. She stepped forward slowly, clutching a battered handbag. "Good morning," she said softly, her voice carrying a fragile dignity that cut through the clatter. The tellers froze. A young woman named Claire exchanged a smirk with her colleague. "Look at her," Claire whispered. "Think she even has an account?" Tina, another teller, laughed under her breath. "Maybe she's here to beg, not deposit money." The hallway erupted in quiet snickers. Some customers whispered, others shook their heads, judgment written across their faces. The security guard stepped closer, arms crossed. "Ma'am, maybe you should come back another time," he said, voice tight with unease. "I said I want to make a transaction," she replied, firmer this time. "Please, attend to me." Claire leaned forward, her tone mocking. "Transaction? With what, lady? Mud in your shoes?" Her laugh bounced across the marble floor. The other tellers joined in. The security guard shifted awkwardly, glancing nervously at the manager's office. I think she should leave," he muttered. She didn't flinch. Her gaze swept the room again, calm, unyielding. "I am not here to argue," she said softly. "I am here to be treated like everyone else." For a moment, the bank went silent. Her voice held authority, but not anger. The guard froze, uncertain. Then Claire laughed again. "Oh, she can shout too. Somebody call the cops." The guard reached for her arm. She didn't resist. She simply stared at him, unwavering. "Before you touch me," she said quietly, "think about what you are doing." The words were soft, almost polite, but the weight behind them made everyone pause. Customers stopped whispering. Tellers exchanged uneasy glances. For the first time, the laughter faltered. Then, slowly, deliberately, she reached into her handbag. Out came a silver iPhone, 17 Pro Max. It gleamed in the sunlight, streaming through the glass doors. She tapped the screen with calm precision and dialed a number. "Henry," she said, her voice sharp, controlled, but calm. Henry, the branch manager, froze. "Madam Benson?" His voice cracked in disbelief. "Yes. Outside the front doors. Hurry." Minutes later, a sleek black SUV skidded to a halt outside the bank. Henry ran in, sweating, panic on his face. The tellers stiffened, pretending to work. "Where is she?" Henry demanded. "She hasn't come in yet, sir," they stammered. The glass doors opened again. She stepped inside. Every eye turned. Henry's jaw dropped. Claire froze mid-laugh. Tina's mouth went dry. "Madam Benson," Henry whispered, almost falling back in shock. "Not one apology will fix what you did," she said quietly. Her gaze swept the tellers. "You mocked me. You laughed at me. You judged me without knowing me. And now, you will learn the consequences." She gestured, and the three tellers handed over their ID cards, trembling. "Effective immediately," she said. Claire dropped to her knees, tears streaming. "Please, we didn't know." "You didn't know," Madam Benson replied softly. "And yet you humiliated me. Learn this lesson. Dignity is not tied to appearance. Never forget that. She walked out, her steps measured and calm. Silence followed, heavier than the laughter that had filled the room minutes before. Customers stared, stunned. The security guard lowered his head, heart pounding. Henry stood frozen, helpless, as the woman he had known as untouchable and now undeniable vanished into the morning light. Later, in her mansion overlooking the city, Madame Benson sat by the window, her hands folded over a stack of letters. They had arrived early the next morning. Claire, Tina, and Emma. Each letter was handwritten, trembling with remorse. Claire wrote first, her words quivering across the page. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but please, teach me how to be better. I've learned the value of humility, and am ashamed of my pride." Tina admitted that she had joined the mockery only to appear strong to her colleagues, finally seeing the weight of her actions. Emma's letter detailed her volunteering at shelters, inspired by the silent lesson Madame Benson had taught. The billionaire CEO folded the letters slowly. Her chest felt tight, not with anger, but with an unexpected warmth. Forgiveness was never weakness. It was strength. That evening, she called Henry. "Bring the girls here," she said softly. "I want to see them." 2 weeks had passed since the bank incident. The tellers, Claire, Tina, and Emma, had arrived at Madame Benson's mansion, their hearts heavy with guilt and uncertainty. The marble floors gleamed under their hesitant footsteps, a silent reminder of the life of privilege they had mocked without knowing. Madame Benson welcomed them into a sunlit parlor. Her presence was calm, almost serene, but there was a strength in her gaze that made them shiver. She gestured for them to sit, and they obeyed, stiff and awkward, unsure if they had earned the right to be there. "I read your letters," she began, her voice soft but unwavering. "I have seen your remorse. I know it is sincere. But remorse alone is not enough. True change comes through action, through the way you treat others from this day forward." Claire swallowed hard, tears threatening to fall. "Madame Benson, we don't know how to make up for what we did." "You start by learning humility," Madame Benson replied. "You start by seeing people for who they are, not how they appear. And you start by forgiving yourselves as well." Tina spoke next, her voice shaky. "I joined in because I wanted to look strong, but I see now how cruel I was. I want to change." Madame Benson nodded. "Then you will. But first, you must understand one thing. Kindness is never wasted. Even when people do not see it immediately, it has power. And that power will come back to you in ways you cannot imagine." Emma, the quietest of the three, lifted her head. "We want to help, to make a difference. Can you show us how?" A small smile tugged at Madame Benson's lips. "Yes, tomorrow, you will volunteer at the city shelter. You will meet people whose lives are broken, who are struggling. You will listen, not judge. You will give, not expect anything in return. Only then will you understand what dignity really means." The following morning, the tellers arrived at the shelter. At first, the unfamiliar surroundings and the faces of those living in hardship made them uneasy. But as the day unfolded, they found themselves drawn into the lives of the people they had once ignored. Claire helped a mother organize her few belongings. She listened to stories of loss and resilience she could barely imagine. By lunchtime, her laughter was no longer mocking, it was genuine, soft, and full of understanding. Tina worked with children, reading stories and helping them paint. She watched as their eyes lit up, and something inside her shifted. The pride she had once clung to faded, replaced by a sense of purpose she had never known. Emma assisted the elderly, carrying bags and sharing quiet conversations. She saw the weight of loneliness on their faces and realized that a simple smile, a listening ear, could bring comfort that money never could. By evening, all three returned to Madame Benson's mansion, tired but changed. She welcomed them, not with applause, but with quiet acknowledgement. Today, you began to understand what it means to care. Tomorrow, you will continue. Days turned into weeks. Slowly, the tellers transformed not just in behavior, but in heart. They volunteered regularly, helped neighbors, and learned to treat everyone they met with respect. Madam Benson watched quietly, her heart swelling with pride. She saw their growth and realized something beautiful. Forgiveness did not only heal the forgiven, it healed the forgiver too. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Madam Benson invited the three tellers to her study. The room was warm, bathed in golden light, a sharp contrast to the coldness they had shown at the bank. "Look at yourselves," she said softly. "You have changed. You have learned to see people for who they truly are, not what they appear to be. And you have learned that kindness is a choice, even when it is difficult." Tears ran freely down Claire's face. "Thank you for giving us a second chance. We didn't deserve it." "You never did," Madam Benson admitted. But forgiveness is not about deserving. It is about recognizing the humanity in others, even when they fail. End quote. Desirefully starting of the Sumper Mater, Tina reached for Madam Benson's hand. "I will never forget this lesson. I want to continue helping, to make sure no one feels judged or humiliated again." Emma nodded, her eyes shining. "We will honor your trust, and we will carry this lesson forward." Madam Benson's heart swelled. She realized that in forgiving them, she had not only taught them a lesson, she had created a ripple of change that would extend far beyond her mansion or her influence. She had shown that compassion, patience, and understanding could transform lives in ways that punishment never could. That night, the mansion was quiet. Madam Benson stood at the window, looking out over the city she had built from scratch. She thought about the young tellers she had forgiven, about the countless others she had never met who might now live differently because of her example. She felt a deep peace settle in her chest. And then, just as she turned to leave, a soft knock came at the door. It was Claire, holding a small envelope. "Madam Benson, we wanted to give you something, a small token of our gratitude." Madam Benson accepted it with a gentle nod. Inside was a simple handmade card, decorated with drawings from the children they had helped at the shelter, each one smiling, each one radiant. "You see," Madam Benson said quietly, smiling, "kindness returns, not always immediately, but always. You have learned this, and now it is time for you to live it every day." Claire, Tina, and Emma left the mansion that night with hearts lighter than they had ever imagined. They understood, finally, that forgiveness was not about the past. It was about creating a better future. As Madam Benson closed the doors behind them, she felt a quiet joy she had not known in years. Not for wealth, not for power, not for recognition, but for the gift of seeing hearts change. She realized that life's true treasures were not measured in dollars, but in acts of compassion and moments of grace. And somewhere deep in her soul, she whispered a prayer of gratitude, not for what she had, but for what she could give. Because she knew that forgiveness, like love, was a miracle. And in that moment, she understood fully that a single act of grace could change everything forever.